Hello everyone, Thersites the Historian here. Today I would like to do a book review, this time of Dean Koontz's novel Hideaway. So if you've ever read a Dean Koontz novel or you're familiar with his work, then you know that his protagonists seem to follow a very specific pattern. All of them live in Southern California or have lived there. All of them are Catholic. Most of them have some sort of artistic inclination, whether they follow it actively or not. Most of them are very well read. Almost all of them have libertarian leanings, and they're pretty much all in their late 20s or early 30s. If one of the protagonists starts out single, he meets a like-minded mate who shares all the same characteristics, or sometimes the couple is already married. In the case of Hideaway, we see that this formula is followed almost exactly, as the husband is an art dealer, the wife is an artist. However, there's a big twist that you would never see coming if you're familiar with Koontz's other works. The husband is 38, meaning he's in his late 30s as opposed to his early 30s or late 20s. So that is something that is pretty ground-shattering. So the basic premise of Hideaway is that this couple, Hatch and Lindsay, have lost their son in the last few years, and they're still feeling quite a bit of depression and regret. He died of cancer or something like that. And then they got in a car wreck and had a near-death experience. And actually, Hatch was legally dead for about an hour, but because he was in the cold, he had fallen off a bridge into a river, he was able to be resuscitated, and he was totally fine. And this gave them a bit of a new lease on life, but with a little bit of a hitch. And that hitch is that now he has a shared conscience at times with a serial killer who we later learn to be Vasago. And basically, the problem with this novel is not that the premise isn't interesting, it is, and not that it doesn't follow the usual Koontz formula of starting out rational, going crazy, and then returning to rationality, which is actually something that works pretty well. The problem is just the pacing and the fact that the payoff in the end, the sort of surprise, isn't very big. Because we only have 4 point of view characters, actually 5 I guess if you count the girl that Hatch and Lindsay try to adopt. And it's pretty obvious that all of these characters have some sort of connection. So it's not hard to figure out Vasago's origins. You'll know the answer to his origins about 100 pages before Koontz tells you about it. So let's talk about the best and worst elements of the book. So the best parts are when Vasago is having flashbacks to his childhood and sort of describing the journey that he took to becoming evil and really embracing that side of his nature and, figuring out that he enjoyed killing. So those parts of the book are the best. They have the most psychological depth, and they're probably the best written. They feature the most action. So I would say that has to be the best. The other scenes with Vasago where he's going around killing people could be better. They're not terrible. The dialogue between Hatch and Lindsay is okay, but Koontz has definitely written better stuff before. The other standout part of the book is when they meet this girl. They go and they try to adopt a girl who has some disabilities from a Catholic orphanage, and she has a lot of personality and spunk. She's probably the best character, even though as a kid she doesn't really play a huge role in this. Anyway, as you might have predicted already, this leads to a confrontation between Hatch and Lindsay and Vasago. I won't ruin it, but I'm sure you can pretty much figure out how it ends. The worst parts are the pacing. Like I said, this one takes a while to get where it's going, and you know where it's going. And it doesn't do anything too clever beyond the first, I would say, 25 or 30 pages. And the other part that's a little bit frustrating is that, these characters, they're not bad, but they're not super compelling. And yet it's supposed to be kind of a character-driven story because we're supposed to really relate to Hatch and Lindsay a lot, and we have a lot of domestic scenes where we're not really doing anything, and it just doesn't quite go the route of a normal thriller. So I would give this one about a 2.5 or 3 out of 5. It's okay, but certainly there are better novels out there, and also better novels by Dean Koontz. So, hopefully I haven't spoiled too much, but if so, well, I guess that's your problem now and not mine, isn't it?